even though there are WTO rules on using defense against subsidies, like in the agreement on countervailing duties, agreement on anti-dumping, agreement, we call it sort of really the defense or safeguards, right? That the countries can use to sort of in case they suspect unfair competition or some other forms of use of subsidies, that they can protect domestic players in that regard. But in all of that, right, that would mean that the subsidies are also very transparently used, and that you can actually identify them and measure them and then react properly to that, right? The problem is that you can subsidize in so many ways, and it doesn't have to be financial. It can be simply in having a softer regulation for domestic producers as compared to the foreign, and it's not even coming in the view directly because it goes to the foreign direct investment regulation or whatever other, location, this and the financial, right? So the problem always was how to define what the subsidy is and how to measure it. So economists like to pretend that they are scientists, right? You have heard about dismal science and all of that, right? And we, most of us are. But and that means that we have to use evidence for formulating our recommendations, right? Not our ideological, emotional, or whatever state of mind, right? So if you do not have evidence on how much of government money is used for subsidies and where these subsidies goes, and then so first you have to have that information, right? Then you can take other information about the flows of trade and the GDP and employment and all of that, and then you can do a research and you can find out whether these subsidies have had an impact or not. And then if they have an impact, you will be able to demonstrate that. And once you know what the impact was, then you will be able to say, okay, this is acceptable from the position of the global community or all of us that are sitting in WTO or not. If we have governments now, particularly in large countries, that are more tolerant of each other's interventions in domestic economy, but also in the parts of the economy that impact each other through foreign trade and financial transactions, etc., then is it important to actually know how much they intervene because they don't care, right? And so what I would not agree with that, right? Because one has to differentiate between these large countries and the small countries, and the small countries do not have simply the means and capacity in terms of knowledge, etc., to intervene, and so they will be at the mercy of of the impact of these policies of the large countries, right? So I think it's very important to understand how much countries intervene, in whatever we measure as subsidies, that which I don't know, right? And then once we understand how much they intervene, and we have evidence of that over some time period, then we can actually do a proper research to understand what is the impact on that, what is the impact in those countries, and what is the impact on the third partners, right, on the rest of the world.